Guys, it's Kelly here, and I am back with another video for my Casing Genius series. Today I'm going to be using On the Strip 2 by Neat and Tangled, Hand Lettered Hello by W+9, and Flora and Fauna 2, also by W+9. So this week's Genius is Wanda Guess, and I just absolutely adore her. I feel like she and I have so much in common. But on her first card, she had these beautiful, bold butterflies. And I love butterflies. I could not pass up the opportunity to use those on my card. So I'm using the medium and the small butterfly that come in the Flora and Fauna 2 set. And I'm just going to stamp that out in threes just because the odd pairings are more pleasing to the eye. And I did mask the large one just to kind of stamp the smaller one behind it. And then in that stamp set, Dawn's drawn this beautiful bouquet. But I wanted them to look like they were flying up out of a field filled with flowers. So I'm not going to use it as a bouquet. I am going to only use the bloom part of it. And I'm going to stamp it like in a semicircle around the bottom of my card. I tried to do this with just two masks originally, but then it was like super square looking at the bottom. It did not look like a semicircle at all. So I had to finally cut a third mask. I just suck it up. So I decided to use some blue-greens for my butterflies. In Wanda's first card, she's blue-green for the background and these beautiful reddish, orange, yellow tones for the butterflies. And I just kind of flipped it. So I'm using BG000, which is super light and it's almost like not even visible, but it's good for saturating the paper. I start with my lightest color and work out to my darkest, and using the feathering technique, so I'm just laying down the tip of my marker onto the paper, and then from the darkest I work back out to the lightest, adding more color down than I did the first time, and this is just to prevent me from making my image too dark all over. So I colored all the butterflies exactly the same way. I'm only going to show you this first one. This card took me about 2 hours to make. And I've managed to get this down to like 13 minutes, which is, I'm not even kidding you, like a miracle from Jesus, because it took forever. So that's going to finish up the butterfly, and then I'm going to move on to the flowers. Now you'll see in that top right hand corner, that flower is already colored, and it's because I was still trying to figure out how I was going to color them. And that flower is the only one I colored like that. All the rest of them I colored like you're going to see here. So I just cut it out. I just nixed it. Again, I'm starting with my lightest color and moving down to my darkest. And with these, because it's so busy and the flowers just lay right on top of each other, it's really important to make sure that you're leaving a highlight for yourself. That's what's going to break up those flowers and give them some definition. So from my lightest out to my darkest, darkest out to my lightest. And I'm only going to show you 1 or 2 flowers in each color family because, like I said, it was just really long and you don't want to watch all that. You don't want to watch it, I promise. Or maybe you do, and maybe you just rather watch it speed it up. If that's the case, then leave me a comment and let me know, because I'll leave it in there and I'll just like super speed it. Because you don't want to sit here for 2 hours and watch me in real time make this card. So this flower is a really good one for seeing, reserving your highlight. Like, see how tiny those petals are there? And I'm not adding as much shading. I'm just adding like a really light line of my darkest. And it's because I want to conserve that highlight so that the petals stand out from one another. This outlining your images at the end with a Copic multiliner also helps do that, which I do. I don't show it on camera. So, I don't really know what's going on there. I seem to have frozen. I think we're moving now. Okay. So, this is the yellows, and I showed you the color combination that I'm using, and I'm just using it for this flower. I picked a YR24 and a Y26, and they were just too similar. They were not giving me enough contrast. So I laid down the 24, that's what I'm using right now, and I just felt like it was the same color. So I opted to switch out to an E55, which is brown, I know, and that seems kind of scary, but it really gives the flowers a more golden look. So I mean, some of your lighter brown shades are still going to be good for shading your yellows. And the yellows that I chose, the Y21 and the what was the other one? The YR23, I think I used. No, that doesn't sound right. Anyway, my mid-tones were more on the gray side than my lightest color, but all of these will work together. Like, don't get nervous about mixing them if they don't seem to match perfectly. They're friends. Like, they'll get friendly together on the paper. It'll be okay. So again, I'm just starting with my lightest, working out to my darkest, and then for the oranges, again, my darkest shade is going to be in the E family. It's a very red brown. I don't own all the Copic markers. I probably will never own all the Copic markers. So I'm just making do with what I have. I suggest you do the same. You know, if you want to shade an orange flower and, you know, you don't necessarily have the darkest color that you would like, it's okay to like maybe bring in a red or bring in a brown, because again, Copics are translucent, so you're putting the pigments on top of each other and they will work together and they'll play nice. So this flower I left in here specifically because it was an awesome example of how leaving your highlight can break up your petals. This specific flower is very large, and there's a lot of layering going on. So I'm laying down my lightest color around the edges. I'm leaving white parts. Leave the white. Leave it. I don't know how many other times I can say that. And then I'm going to go in with my next darkest color, and on those very tips, I'm really just drawing one line, like just a very simple line. I'm not feathering out at all because I want to conserve that area. And again, you know, just feather out on your larger petals, like that one in the middle is large and it can take more shading, so it's okay to go ahead and feather out. But the ones on the outside edges, you really just want to draw like one quick line and not really have a light hand, like super light hand. Don't make your lines too fat, because Copics, what they bleed into the paper, that's how they mix and blend so beautifully. So if you really push down, then it's going to push out not only into your highlight, but it could push out past your edges, and you don't want that. So working out to my lightest color, and then here I will finally, with my lightest color, cover up the white edges, and you can just see how you can see each part of that flower. So here you can see that there's no leaves in this bouquet, but I wanted some green to break it up. So what I did was I left some petals uncolored along with the centers or back sides of the flowers, just so I could put some green in there to break up all of those warm hues. So, and I'm just, again, doing the same. I feel like a broken record. Lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest, lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest. I'm sure you're probably sick of me saying that, but that's what I do. And then with the greens, I'm just going to fill in all of those little white spaces. I'm sure you're probably thinking, well, people know that it's not leaves. No, they won't. They're not going to know. Unless you tell them. So this is the other thing that I like to use to break things up. And so you just take a gray marker. I prefer the cool grays. And make sure you're wiping it off in between each color, because it can carry, because it's a lighter color. And that helps to knock back some of those flowers. Just immediately adding that gray, for some reason, just drops them to the back. They're not as bright as the rest of the colors, and anything dark is going to fall into the back. So try that. If you're having difficulty with some shading, or you feel like everything's too flat, just add some gray to something in the back. I'm telling you, it really helps, especially if you're not comfortable with light source or things like that. So here I left this part in because I wanted to show you how I modify my butterflies. I wanted them to be a hair more interesting, since they were taking up the center of my card. So I'm using a journaling pen to outline the whole image, and I outlined everything that I stamped. But I'm just drawing in, I'm following the shape of the butterfly wing, and I'm drawing in just some solid black lines. And then on the bottom, Dawn's already drawn in this line, and I'm just filling it in. That's all that I'm doing. And I'm going to do the same thing on all three butterflies, because they're colored exactly the same. They're like a little cluster of butterflies together. I chose to show you how I did the white part on the biggest one because it's easier to see. So I'm just drawing some really simple dots and half moons, and then filling that area in. this just creates a different look for your butterfly. I'm a big fan of making things your own. And so you can do this with any image. Get a journaling pen or a white gel pen, and it's just a way to make it a little more creative, a little more you. So after I was done doing that, I'm going to work on the sentiment. And I guess I don't know how this happened, but I've kind of become known for this white gel pen trick, just because I like one layer panels. So I'm using the black pure color ink from W+9, which is my favorite black to stamp sentiments with. It's amazing. It's totally crisp and I love it. And I'm going to stamp this large hello right over the top of my coloring. I know that kind of is a little scary, but don't worry, it's going to be fine. And I had to set it offset because the stamp was hanging over. So it's totally legible. Like, it's not because the sentiment is so large, but to make it pop a little more, I'm going to outline it with a white gel pen. This really doesn't take that long. I mean, I don't feel like it does, but I outline everything. So I don't know. You'll have to try it and see for yourself. But then if you get any white in the areas that you don't want, it makes your lines too thin, then just take a journaling pen, coat with multi-liner, and go back over them and clean them right up. This is I think it's called, it's a craft cardstock. It's W+9 also. And then I'm using warm wool W+9 ink. And I'm going to stamp this wood grain. Wanda used wood grain in, I think, 2 of her 3 cards. And I'm not looking for a perfect impression, okay? I wanted it to be a little shabby, so I'm swiping on the ink pad. I'm patting it on in other areas. And the only part that matters is the edges, because that's the only part you're going to see. So you'll see here, like, sometimes I didn't even stamp it. I just wanted a good variation for my wood grain. And then I'm going to pop up my panel on some craft foam. I chose to use brown just because my card base is brown and it blended well. I could have used white too, but I bought the multicolored pack. So I'm a cheap chicken. I'm not buying it anymore till this is gone. So I try to match what I can to my card bases. And then after I go ahead, I'm using Tombow Mono Multi Glue to add that down. And then I'm going to add that to my card base, and I'm going to add some sequins. They are clear sequins from Pretty Pink Posh. But before I go, I want to tell you that this is the week of my 1-year anniversary for Casing Genius, and there's going to be something exciting happening on the blog later this week. So I hope that you will come over, and there could be a chance to, I don't know, win something, maybe? Okay, there is. There's a chance to win something, so come back and visit me. All right, that's pretty much the card, guys. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you later. Bye.